Testing one, two, testing, testing.
Hello, everyone. Anybody know why we're here tonight? I don't know. They can't hear in the back or they're not paying attention. Thank you. Thank you. Hello, everyone. I obviously know why you're here tonight. I got it right here. Anyway, my name is Chuck Anderson. I'm the Commodore of the Chicago Yacht Club. Like to And on behalf of everyone at the Chicago Yacht Club, I want to officially welcome you to the 115th race to Mackinac. 115. I will be up there. You'll see me. It'll be a power boat. We should pass you tomorrow afternoon. We know you've been planning for months. You've been prepping for weeks. I know that for a fact. I've seen a lot of you around here with pieces and parts and bags and boxes. The moment's finally here. Almost. It's tomorrow. Just a couple hours, you'll be out on the water with your bow pointed north, hopefully, taking part in this incredible race that dates way back to 1898. But first, we have one more thing for you, and it's the briefing. Our team from Chicago Yacht Club will take you through some reminders, what to expect when you get to the island, and of course, the weather, which if it's like this, it's going to be great. We will have a real nice power motorboat yacht trip up to the island. So let me turn it over to my friend, my colleague, and the chair of this wonderful event, the 115th running of the MAC, Win Saldani.
Hi, everyone. How's everyone doing? Good. Looking forward to this for a long time. So, as any good chair will do, I have to start by thanking some people. And the first people that I need to thank are our sponsors. So I'm just going to read these off, and I'd love a round of applause afterwards, please. So Evolution Sales, Harkin, Mission Point Resort. I was very clear in my instructions, I thought. San Pellegrino, Larson Marine, Samuel Adams, Aquapana, X, Tatingier. I learned how to pronounce that yesterday. Mount Gay. That's hard not to clap for, right? Team One Newport. And look, 10th year sponsoring as title sponsor for the Chicago Yacht Club in this race. Wintrust. We really couldn't do it without them. So thank you all very much. Okay, as a reminder, this meeting is a courtesy. The invited competitor or person in charge is responsible for reading and understanding the NOR, the SIs, racing rules of sailing, and all other rules of the race. Now, you don't need to clap for that one. Boy, once the bar opens, it's a whole different vibe here. We're reminding you of two important rules. Number one is fair sailing, that a boat and her owner shall compete in compliance with recognized principles of sportsmanship and fair play, and that the decision to race is the responsibility for a boat's decision to participate in a race or to continue racing is hers alone. Okay, with those formalities to the side, we'll talk a little bit about following the race and a couple of other interesting things this year. Number one is, as always, we have a presence on Facebook, Instagram, X. You can follow us on all of those. And if you have a boat Twitter feed or Facebook page, email the link to communications@chicagoyachtclub.org. Always use the hashtag CYCRTM. For those of you following the race, and we'll talk a little bit more about this in a second, we'll be doing video race updates every day. So share with friends and family these things, and we'll keep people posted on this great race. The tracking links, you can take a picture of this if you want. This presentation will also be posted to the notice board if you want to look this up later on. The tracking links, YB is doing our tracking once again. With the change to the nautical cloud system, we got some cool additional stuff that we're trying to do from a tracking perspective. One thing, and you may have seen this if you were following Newport, Bermuda, is we put gates in along the course. So we got breaks at Saugatuck, Little Sable, Point Betsy, Charlevoix, Can 3, the Mac Bridge, and the finish. And what we were able to do now is we're able to look at splits across those. So we can find out if we pass boats, see if boats fell behind, who was faster than us, who was slower than us, and so forth. So everyone have a good time with that when you're off watch and you still have cell signal and right, you're still following the race. So a couple of cool things that we're trying to do for the race. Back to some of the rules. I want I'm sure everyone appreciates this, but I have to say it. We're guests at Mackinac Island. We're staying in their marinas and we follow the rules in their marinas. There will be a list of rules posted at the marina. I need to emphasize one. There is no fueling for portable cans in DNR controlled harbors. So that means you can take your empty fuel container and you can take it and get it filled up. You can't carry a full container back on the dock though. And this is very important. We have people do this. And when you do that, you get a nice note from me the following year about like, gosh, can't do that again, or you're not going to be able to race. So please follow those rules of the DNR, follow the rules of the volunteers. Speaking of volunteers, two groups of people. Number one, I would like any members of the CYC Race to Mackinac Committee in the audience, please stand up, take a bow for your work this year. Thank you so much. And then race committee members, some or both. Any race committee members in the audience around? Well, I guess they're outside. They're up. Yeah. I use the word humbling a lot, and being chair of the race, that's the word I would use to describe it more than anything else, given the amount of effort that there is from volunteers here, and given that the effort that there is from the staff here at the Chicago Yacht Club also to put together this entire event. So thanks to them also. If you've been following the race closely, you know that we are putting an emphasis on first timers. First timers represent 10% of the votes in the race this year and about 20% of the entries. We had 382 people doing this race for the first time out of about 2,200 crew. Yeah, that's a big deal, right? That's a big deal. So Claire O'Neill from the MAC committee has done an amazing job of organizing first timer stuff and events. Those of you who are first timers will get a pin for your first race. 115th on a little lapel pin, right? Go right here. And then Claire's actually modeling there. There's my first MAC temporary tattoos that will be given out of the island also, right? That's awesome. I love it. There's a brunch. I think you all know there's a trophy on the line. I hope you know that. There's a trophy on the line for first timers. The Baxter family donated a trophy for the fastest first time boat in each division. So we're looking forward to awarding that. There's going to be a brunch for first timers on Tuesday. That brunch is closed. There's no more tickets available for that. We sold it out. If you don't have tickets and still want to come see the presentation though, come at 12:30, get your pins and bring your crew with you, right? Does not have to be a first timer because if you remember the initiation ceremony for Mackinac used to be throwing your newbie into the harbor. I just went over the harbor rules and we can't do that anymore. So we are trying to find some creative ways to bring the harbor to the newbies. So please come initiate your first timers. If you have any questions, Claire monitors this email address, newbies@cycracetomackinac.com. Okay. Last from me before I hand it off to Jen and the race committee. Next year is the 150th anniversary of the Chicago Yacht Club. And I want to start talking now about this because we're going to run what I'm calling an Ultra Mac. So we're going to start at Port Huron. You do the Cove Island course in Port Huron, Mac, continue all the way to Chicago, about 600 miles worth of freshwater sailing. Good luck finding that somewhere else, right? We're going to do ultra size celebrations here, and we're going to do ultra size celebrations on Mack Island. I'm already working on the fireworks up there. I don't know what else we're going to do. I'm going to talk to the mayor this week and figure out what we can make happen. But we're going to throw a big old party. To get more people and more first timers to do this, we're road showing around the lake. So if we haven't already reached out to your yacht club, or you know of other yacht clubs with boats that would travel, that would be interested in doing really the once in a sailing career races that we're talking about here, please reach out to us and we will arrange a visit to your yacht club. So we're very proud of this and it's very important. Okay. That's what I have for now. I'd like to now introduce our principal race officer, who I cannot have asked for a better partner in organizing this race, Jen Steffler.
All right. Welcome. I will keep it brief because I know you're all here to see Chris Bedford and hear what he has to say. So this is the same way we did check-in last year, but in case you weren't here, it's The check-in crew is going to be at the end of Navy Pier. They're going to be ashore. So all boats will go across the end of Navy Pier from south to north, head east, go around the yellow one so you don't port tack into anybody, and then head down to the starting area. Nobody can go in the gap at the lighthouse. The Coast Guard will definitely meet you and tell you to go down along the wall. Once you get out there, the Coast Guard will come up and talk in a little bit, but the Katmai Bay will be escorting the fleet up. They'll be out on the eastern side out of the ley lines. Please stay out of the safety box here when it's not your start. So we'll have teams patrolling. The course marshals will be out there. If your color's not in sequence, they will ask you to leave the box. This will be our pin boat, Anna Marie. She was the same pin boat we had last year. Thank you, Kurt Lynch, for loaning her to us and coming out. So our signal boat will be Carrier, who's sitting right here, and we'll be out there on the west end or the east end of the start line. These are the official flags. We know that when you run out of rum, you hoist the whiskey flag. So the whiskey flag, it will designate any VIP boats, media boats, if we ran out of the fancy Round Island Lighthouse flags. So the whiskey flags will be out there tomorrow. One thing we realized today is that the phone number for in the SIs to contact race committee is not working. So we just posted an amendment and it went to all the sailors that have a phone number in the system. So the new number, if you need to contact us, is 773-340-0186. So this year, I don't have to tell you that you can't go around Can 3 and then have Can 3 be there. So we're back to what we're used to sailing as our normal course. Can 3 is there. Wynn brought his boat around a few weeks ago and saw that it was there. The other change that we have this year is there's no bridge call-in. So once you come under the bridge, start monitoring 7-8, but we don't need a call in when you're nearing the finish line. We have enough other ways to know boats are near, AIS, YB, that we don't need you to call in. You do have to call and confirm your finish. So once you cross the finish line, that's when it's a good thing that to write down your time, call in and confirm your finish. So for the electronic finish declarations, these are actually very, very easy to do. On the back of the green cards that everybody got with their preliminary docking assignments, we created a cheat sheet. So when you're going across the line and you finish, you can write down your time and the information to submit it. So you don't have to find a phone, you don't have to find a tablet, you don't have to find anything right at that moment. Write it down and you could submit it later. Everybody should have gotten an email, all the skippers, the primary and secondary emails on the accounts, on the entries. You should have gotten an email earlier. If you didn't, you can let us know and we can send it again. When you near the finish line, the primary mobile that's on your race entry will get a text message. It'll have the same link that was in the email. It's unique to your boat, but you can forward it to anybody. So if you want to designate somebody to be in charge of submitting that, go ahead. One thing to make sure you do is once you put in your times, hit the save button and submit. Otherwise, it won't actually go. I hope nobody has this problem, but if you need to retire from the race, you can actually retire from that finish declaration. So you can go to that, you can click retire. You can put in a note, let us know, is the crew safe, is the boat safe, and you're going to harbor or you're going to continue to MAC. So then we have the information, you don't have to call us separately. We're happy to talk to you if you'd rather talk to us, but you can do it from your declaration. So this is just a screenshot of what it'll look like on your phone, whether you go to it from the text message or your email. So that green save button at the bottom is very important. Once you've crossed the finish line, you've got your fenders ready, your dock lines out, and you're ready to dock, you can call docking control. If you are doing touch and go is at slip J30, right next to the DNR shack this year. It is not at the end of the ferry dock. So it's in the harbor. The inspection slips will be just the other side of touch and go. So I-31 and 32. So if you're looking for touch and go or inspections, they'll both be right by the DNR hut by race committee headquarters. If you're doing touch and go, it literally is a touch and go. Get everybody ready, get the people ready to step off that are staying on the island. We'll catch your lines and we will happily give you a shove off the island. We have a lot of boats that need to come in, and the more we back up, everybody's tired, everybody wants to get ashore, so we want to help accommodate that. If you're not doing touch and go, bring your trackers back to race committee headquarters, right there in the harbor, where we've been the last couple of years. Bring your trackers back. You will get the all-important drink tickets when you return your trackers. So if you don't return your trackers, you don't get your drink tickets. And then we'll see everybody up at Mission Point. So I'm hoping our judges are here somewhere. I don't know. I see them. I looked for them earlier and they were hiding from me. We have Lance Smotherman back this year, who is our chief judge. We have John Porter back for another year. I see Don Becker hiding back there from the West Coast. And Mike Casper is our jury secretary. And with that, I'd like to introduce Lieutenant Sam Pollard from Biscayne Bay. Thank you.
Howdy, folks. As she said, I'm Sam Pollard. We'll be escorting y'all all the way up to Mackinac Island. Just want to go over a couple safety things with y'all. Everyone's monitoring channel 16, right? We'll be there following. The fleet will be around the main body of vessels for y'all's entire transit up. So we're trying to provide the most service. Y'all holler if you need us. And y'all know the emergency buttons on your digital selective calling. Use them if you need them. And there's a picture of the ship, hull number 104. That's then we'll back up a little bit. Yeah. I don't speak public much. Okay, Sam Pollard, Biscayne Bay. Well, please monitor channel 16. We'll be monitoring that throughout the whole race. We're going to stick with the main body of boats. So the biggest group we can be around, we will for the entire trip up to Mackinac. Yeah, monitor channel 16 and use your DSC red button. If you have any problems, use them. And there's a picture of the ship, hull number 104. That's us. We're actually an icebreaker. Finest tug in the fleet, if anybody asks. And that's all I have. Turn it back over to Win. Thanks, everybody.
Well, Lieutenant, it's tradition for us to present a burgee signed by all the race committee and all the competitors to the Coast Guard as a thank you for your care during the race. Yeah, thank you. Okay, now the highlights. Chris Bedford is here with us again this year, and I last year promised Chris Bedford we would never have another technological failure as we did last year. Chris Bedford is a good friend of mine, and I think he's the best in the world at what he does. He hates it when I say that because he's the most modest guy you'd ever meet, but I'm very happy and very proud to call him a friend and very happy to have him here. Chris?
Thank you, Win. That was very kind. Try and talk into the mic. Can everyone hear me? Well, that's too bad because you've come here for your annual abuse where I tell you things are not going to be as you think they are. Welcome. All right. So It's good to be back here again for another year of racing, and I look forward to waving to you all off the dock as I head off to my next assignment. And I hope you have a great trip on your way up, and we're going to try and inform you as best we can on what I think is going to happen. And but also it's important for you to remember that things on the lake change, and they change quickly. So even in the best cases, some unexpected things can happen. And as we know, last year was a good example. Just about every year, I seem to come up here and have to talk about thunderstorms, and we got to talk about them again this year. So make sure you're staying up to date on the forecast. A couple of things to remember, you know, we're all using the radar apps now to get the latest radar information, and they're great. But just keep in mind that what you see may not be what you get on the radar app. It can be not as bad as it looks on the radar, or it can be a lot worse than it looks on the radar. A lot of interpretation is necessary. Just yesterday, for example, I was looking at the radar for here, and you would have thought that there would have been a downpour going on. But the reality was the radar apps were not correctly displaying the information from some of the individual radars. So you had to be very careful how you interpreted the data. So keep that in mind. And sometimes the information on your app is up to 15 or 20 minutes old because of the way that the information is processed, and it takes that much time to get to your app. So beware when you're using the apps. Use them for sure, to track the thunderstorms and stuff, but also make sure you're looking outside and making sure that everything looks as you expect it to outside the boat. Grid files. We're all using grid files these days to do our forecasting and our routing, and it seems like that's all people care about is the grid file. I want the grid file. What's the grid file say? Well, grid files are just one forecast from one model and one expectation of what can happen on the water. In fact, they're not a forecast. We call them, meteorologists call it guidance. So we use the guidance to create our forecast. And so, you know, I'll be showing you charts up here. They're from particular models, or some of them are forecasts that are put together by meteorologists. But keep in mind that that is not the forecast. It requires some interpretation as well. So what you see is not what you get. You're responsible for the safety of your boat. Keep your eyes outside the boat. Make sure things look as you expect them to. If they don't, then you should make sure that you increase your vigilance and make sure you're ready to do something to protect yourself if necessary. All right, with that, let's get started with the severe weather outlook. And we do have a chance of getting some severe storms on the lake again this year. It looks like tomorrow during the daytime hours we'll be in pretty good shape. But tomorrow evening and overnight, there is a pretty good possibility that we'll get some thunderstorms moving down on the lake. This is from the Severe Storms Prediction Center at NOAA. They're indicating a slight risk of severe storms coming into Wisconsin, a marginal risk on the lake. Most of that is going to be sort of in the latter part of the time period of this chart here, but it is quite possible we'll be getting something coming out on the lake. The where and the when is still in question, quite honestly. And that's why one of the reasons you're going to have to keep monitoring the forecast going forward. We may know more again tomorrow morning when we get more information, but in reality, we may not know where those storms are going to come from until they actually develop. And so until they develop and start moving, where are they going to cross the lake? Are they going to cross the lake sort of in the center part of the lake or further south, or are they going to cross north of that? So there's still some things to be sorted out about all that. And I'll show you a graphic of that as we go along. Then the forecast into Sunday, Monday also has the lake in a slight risk a marginal risk of severe thunderstorms. And so that will also tend to be sort of Sunday night and into early Monday morning if that becomes an issue. So again, we're still there. And even on Monday into Tuesday, there's a chance as well, mostly in the southern part of the lake. But as you can see, the weather is going to become more unsettled. And so we need to be on top of it. All right, so let's get started with the actual conditions. This is the actual conditions this afternoon. You'll see the big H out there over New York State. That's a very broad high pressure. In fact, if we look all the way back to across Michigan and Wisconsin, there aren't really any isobars. Isobars tell us how quickly the pressure is changing over distance. When we have isobars packed up close together, that means the pressure is changing very quickly over short distance. So in other words, we're moving a lot of air to support that pressure difference. If the isobars are far apart, the air doesn't need, the pressure gradient's weak. The air doesn't need to move around as much to sort of try to balance it out. And so therefore the wind is lighter. Right now, we're in that light wind regime, almost a slack pressure gradient, zero pressure gradient over us right now. And in fact, that's what drove the lake breeze that we have out there today. But if you look out to the west, you'll see there's low pressure out there, and that's going to be edging closer to us. And so eventually, as the high moves away, the low moves closer, the isobar is going to pack up again. And that's what I'm hoping that you get into tomorrow after the start, into a nice southerly breeze that's going to carry you all the way up to Mackinac nonstop at exactly 15 knots in flat water. It's not going to happen. All right, we have the satellite loop. You'll notice that little swirl of clouds out over Michigan. That's an upper level feature that does a little pool of cold air up there. There's some showers and thunderstorms under that. That's moving away. We don't need to worry about it. Focus in on Lake Michigan. It's a classic lake breeze satellite image, all clear over the lake, and then the lake is ringed by cumulus clouds, a convergence area where the lake breeze is going in and converging with the other flows on the shore, and the rising air over the land helping to produce those clouds. So sinking air over the middle of the lake. And where we have sinking air, we have very light winds, as I'll show you momentarily. And there's the radar picture, nothing to worry about out there. Okay, here's what the wind field looks like this afternoon. And you'll see that there's a big hole of no wind in the middle of the lake. And from that hole, the air is blowing inward all around the lake. Again, a slack pressure gradient situation over the southern half of the lake where we have lake breeze. And so that's what the cruising fleet is taking up the Illinois, Wisconsin shore. They're going to hug that shoreline and go north in that wind as long as they can. But tonight it's going to get pretty light for them. So we look forward to their reports about the flies. The lake temperature, we need to talk about that because that helps to drive the lake breeze. The bigger the temperature difference between the lake and the land, the stronger the lake breeze tends to be. This year, unlike some of the recent years, we have pretty normal lake temperatures actually across the lake. It's about in the around 70 and mid 70s mid-lake here in the south, drops to about 70 in the upper 60s to near 70 in the middle part of the lake, and the lower to mid 60s in the upper part of the lake, a very normal and about a degree or so less on average across the whole lake than what we had last year. But it's a very typical situation. So nothing special there. But at the same time, our temperatures on the land aren't as warm this year as they were last year. So we're not getting quite the temperature contrast. So lake breezes will be a little bit softer this year. Okay, so here we are. Here's the forecast chart for tomorrow morning. And what we see is that high is shifting out to the east and sitting over the eastern Great Lakes. And then you'll see that low pressure out over the plain states. And now we start to see some isobars. We actually have one isobar coming right across Lake Michigan, another one just coming into Wisconsin. So now where there are no isobars today, we're going to get about 2 isobars tomorrow. So we're starting to show that southerly flow that's developing between the departing high pressure and the approaching low pressure. Notice the area shaded green. Now, this is a forecast chart, forecast by NOAA. And on these charts here, the green doesn't indicate where they think it's going to be raining. It indicates where they think there is a chance of rain. Okay, so that's how you have to interpret these charts. So it may only be a 20 or 30% chance of rain, but that's where they think that there is a chance of some rain. If there's a dark green area, that's where rain is likely. So better than 50 or 60% chance of rain. So you'll see that there's that little bit of chance of rain over the area, basically the upper Mississippi Valley region. And that's mainly because we're bringing warm air north that's sort of riding up over the existing cooler air to the north of it, and it's causing some overrunning. So the air is rising up, producing some clouds and some isolated showers and instability. Here's the wind field tomorrow morning when you wake up, pretty light, but what you see is that there's a drift from the south. We're starting to see that southerly gradient wind. It may actually be pretty calm right here at the coastline when you get down to the boat in the morning, because we will have had a little bit of a land breeze at night and just very slack gradient. But over time, that southerly gradient is just going to be gradually increasing, and we'll start to generate more southerly flow to get us off the starting line and headed north. Now, the waves are not going to be a problem with the light winds, and it actually looks like for most of the race, it's going to be relatively flat water. They will pick up a little bit over the weekend as the southerly builds and the fetch increases on the lake. Now, Saturday midday, you see that high still out to the east of us, low pressure getting a little bit closer. But again, the isobars are starting to squeeze together, and the risk of rain is starting to increase in the southern part of the lake as well. And if we look at the wind field tomorrow, sort of during your starting sequences, you'll see the beginnings of that increase. And one of the things that's going to help the wind actually build is a lake breeze component. So we're going to have the southerly from the gradient coming in, but there will also be some kind of a little lake breeze component. And that will help to generate additional flow, and also will back the winds from the south more into the southeast a little bit, so that they're bending in toward the shoreline to support that lake breeze circulation. So that'll actually help the wind to increase very quickly on the Illinois, Wisconsin side of the lake relative to the Michigan side, which will stay very light because that's where the sort of the lake breeze is originating from on that side. So it looks like right now, at least initially, they're going to be going up the Illinois shore, Wisconsin shore, to stay in the better pressure. But given the fact that we expect this southerly to increase and sort of spread across the lake, it shouldn't be too much longer before you can start to edge out into the middle of the lake and get that breeze to send you north. All right, now here's the forecast chart for Saturday. Again, that high pressure seems to really like things in Canada, so it's hanging out there in Ontario, but it is slowly weakening and moving out to the east, and that low pressure is also slowly coming closer. But here's where we have to start thinking about thunderstorms. There's an indication that there will be storms developing up in the Minnesota, northern Wisconsin, maybe even the western UP of Michigan area, or perhaps even a little bit further south of that into southern Wisconsin. And the upper level winds are basically from the west and the northwest. So they're going to push those storms down toward the southeast. And there is a chance of that, some of them getting together and kind of clustering together and moving offshore. And as I showed you, some of them could become severe. When we say that they're severe storms, that means there'll be frequent lightning. There could be wind gusts well over gale force. There could be hail, which would be very pleasant. And obviously heavy rain with reduced visibility. So we need to look for those things if any of the storms become severe. Now, where exactly they're to come out, as I said, is still sort of a question mark. We don't know that information for sure. I'll show you something in a moment about that. So here's a forecast wind field, and what we see is in the southern part of the lake, that lake breeze component has helped to bring the breeze around more from the southeast. But as you go north, with time and distance to the north, the wind is going to be veering back into a more southerly direction. But you'll notice the wind has increased. That sort of light blue to green color is sort of 10 to 15 knots of wind. So we should be in sort of a moderate southeasterly going southerly by tomorrow evening and tomorrow night. Again, it's pretty flat on the lake, but the waves will start to pick up, obviously, especially in the northern and western side where the fetch is greater. All right, here's the forecast for 1 o'clock Sunday morning. And you see that there's broad southerly flow now on the lake. And if we have thunderstorms coming across from Wisconsin, that will also indicate that the wind should be increasing. We'll have increased mixing. We have bringing down more breeze from a higher altitude, and we'll start to get that wind up to sort of the 15 knot, maybe even up in the 15 to 20 knot range. Sunday midnight or so, Sunday morning, midnight. But this is where we don't know for sure what's going to happen. So that's the optimistic look, that wind field that I showed you there. But here I have two different models. Both of these are what we call a convection allowing models. So they're able to predict thunderstorm development. Now, the thing about models is they won't get it right. They will tell you, what they're telling you though, is that there is a chance of this stuff developing. It's probably going to develop. Don't know exactly where, don't know exactly when, but you should be watching out for it. And depending on the model and the formulation, the data goes in, et cetera, it's going to have a different answer. And we're getting two sort of diverging answers right now. And on the left there, you see one answer. This has been very consistent from the WRF model, showing the thunderstorms coming out of the UP of Michigan, or maybe northeastern Wisconsin, and moving across the lake, sort of Manitou's north, up in that area. However, on the right is the rapid refresh model, which has been kind of inconsistent on where these cells are going to develop, but more recently shows them forming further to the south and moving across the lake, sort of south of a line from about Frankfort, Michigan, south. So we've got two very different answers. And obviously at midnight, given your position at midnight on Saturday, it's a pretty critical thing to know. So this is why you're going to have to continue to monitor the forecast going forward. My personal feeling is I'm a little bit more intrigued by the answer that has a greater impact on you. I'm kind of sick that way. So I'm kind of more interested in the rapid refresh solution right now, where the cells are coming across the lake, maybe a little bit earlier, maybe in that 11 midnight, 1 a.m. time period, Saturday night, Sunday morning. And then so if that's the case, they certainly will be more impactful. Now, the good news is they slide out. There's probably a couple few hour at most impact. They slide out to the southeast, and then that southerly breeze should return. Oh, by the way, I was just looking before I came up here, looking at the newer run of the European model. It actually has the average of these two solutions. Okay, so it has the cells sort of coming out in Green Bay area, a little bit up there toward the north. So again, different models, different solutions. That's why they're models, and they need to be taken as guidance. All right, so Sunday morning we see southwest flow, see the isobars oriented from southwest to northeast across the lake. And then we also have a cold front coming down from the northwest as well. But most of the cells should move out to the east. And during the daytime on Sunday, at least right now, I'm not expecting much weather to be of concern. Now, this picture right here, again, this will be a little bit different depending on where those cells actually cross the lake, but we should by sunrise or so Sunday morning have the southerly building back in sort of in that 15 knot average range, depending on where you are on the lake. Notice how the wind field is still on this image, still chopped up a bit in the northern part of the lake. That's because in this model here, the cells are still departing that, but it does sort itself out. Waves coming up a little bit, probably touching up closer to 2 feet because of the stronger winds on the lake. On Sunday, the forecast shows that we still have that southerly flow, but it's backed off just a little bit. So it's still you're still in running conditions heading up to the island, but it's a little bit softer, sort of 10 to 15 knots knot range. Sunday night, we do have a cold front coming in from the northwest. And again, they're indicating rain all around the lake. That's basically, like I said, there's going to be rain, but we don't know exactly where and when, so we're just going to paint everything green. So that's the way you have to interpret that as well. So it could be there, may not be there. Sunday night, you can see the wind field basically coming in from the south, still up in the northern half of the lake. But again, as I mentioned, there's enough chance of some more cells, another batch of things coming across the lake, perhaps generated by that cold front as it's getting a little bit closer. Sea state picking up as well. All right, Monday morning, we see the winds basically from the southwest and up in the northern part of the lake. But again, watching for cells coming out in the lake, they'll disturb this wind field and change it somewhat. But generally speaking, still in running conditions heading up to the island. Now, by Monday morning, that front should have moved through, and we get it's not much of a front really in terms of wind shift and pressure behind it. Normally, when a cold front goes through, we have a nice big high following it in across the lake. The wind shifts to the northwest and north. It picks up, clears out, everything dries out, lower humidity, etc. But in this case, if you look back to the west, there's another low forming. So we're not going to get a big clearing high behind this front. In fact, the wind will actually back again into the southwest. Eventually we'll get a little bit of a shift, a drop in wind speed. That's what you see here in the northern part of the lake on Monday. And then it will pick up again from the south once the front moves away. Wave heights. All right, here's Monday night. And you'll notice Monday night, we've got more thunderstorms. That's what that weather is coming in out of sort of the Green Bay area. Coming across the central part of the lake, but generally a southwesterly breeze sort of around 15 to 20 knots, except lighter, much lighter up at the straits by that time. And then on Tuesday morning, you get two fronts now. The bigger front is the one coming down from the north through Lake Superior. That's going to be the clearing front that finally clears things out during the day on Tuesday. So until that front comes through, we have sort of unsettled weather. Winds will be a little bit up and down, and then by Tuesday we should get the northwesterly winds filling back in. So as I always do, I ran 3 different polars, sort of a fast boat, medium boat, and a slow boat. As you can see, given this forecast with all that southerly wind veering around from sort of southeast to south to southwest, there isn't a whole lot in the routing here. There's nothing really special. You can see the boats initially sort of hedging to the left of the rum line, and then as the wind veers, then they're cutting across the lake and then VMGing more or less up the Michigan coastline. So there's not a whole lot to tell you from the routing other than that, but that's how things are looking at the moment. So with that, I wish you good luck. Please be safe. And at this point, I get to introduce the man none of you have been waiting for. Wow.
Thanks, Chris. Great job as usual. And after last year, I'm glad you gave me a dumbed down forecast where I can't even screw up the wind mix call. As you probably guessed, the rating is going to be based on the Chicago Mac downwind number. If you go to the online scratch sheet now, you will be able to see your downwind factor. It's been the all-purpose that has displayed up till now, but this afternoon they put the downwind numbers in. The one designs that have levelized ratings, those numbers will be loaded yet this evening. And there is a button there where you can download those scratch sheets. If for some reason you want to print a copy of it, you'll have that available. So that is it, except for wind. Thank you.
All right. So what I heard from Chris in summary is dead calm to 15 to 20 knots, blue skies, thunderstorms, and flies is what I heard from Chris. So typical Mac race. Thank you all for being a part of it. Look forward to seeing you on the island.